What's up, everybody? Woo! Crazy. All right, we're back, and we are going to be doing an incredible, super cool, yet very simple information design project. We're going to be creating simple animated bar graphs in After Effects. And what we're going to do is we're going to demo how to do the workflow from Illustrator first to get our vector graphics, and then we're going to head over to After Effects with everything broken up. Our composition remains, and then we're going to make these things come to life. So let's get started. So I've opened up a brand new Illustrator file, and down here I've created at least the first graph of what we're going to be using for our project. And then we're going to take advantage of the type and other things that we can do in After Effects in order to pull this off. So what I did here, just to sort of show you how we broke this down, was I've got two pieces, just simple rectangles, and I broke them into two layers. And it's important that we do layers because we want to bring this into After Effects ready to go as pieces. And because After Effects is very much like Photoshop in that all of our graphic objects have to be sort of separate, and Illustrator is different in that there's a bunch of graphical objects that can exist in one layer. We want to go with the way of After Effects and make sure that our stuff is separate. So what I did here was, here I'll reproduce this. I'm going to hold my finger on Option, or you can just draw a brand new rectangle from scratch with the rectangle tool. But I want to keep these guys consistent. So I just did Alt or Option key on the Mac, and then Shift, and then I clicked and dragged, and I just brought this guy over. So that's ready to go for us. And then I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to hold down Command on the Mac or Control on the PC. Sorry, I got a little jumper here. And we're going to do Control C or Command C, and then we're going to do Command or Control F, which is going to paste an identical copy of that graphic right on top of itself, so that we can do this. We're going to grab its top bar right here and drag it down to roughly about here, right, to sort of give us some sort of value that we're going to be using in the bar chart. And what we want to do is sort of set this to be the way it's going to look when it's finally done, and then we're going to animate it inside of After Effects to reveal. So that'll be really cool. So what we'll do is I'm just sort of working off of this color palette. So I'll eyedropper it and then double click to get a similar value in another color. We can use this nice purple. Okay. And then this is a nice little trick. I need to get 5 of these bars made for my project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my black arrow and then draw a box surrounding this latest one. And you'll notice I've got both the objects. And then what I'll do is I'm going to then click or Option or Alt key click, which gives us that special arrow showing us that we're going to make a copy. And then my finger goes on Shift, or actually, sorry, Alt and Option, start clicking, then hold Shift. So that way you get it nice and aligned. Okay. And you'll see there I've got a direct copy. And like I said, I need 5 of these in total. So what I'm going to do now is, since I made one, I'm going to do Command or Control D, as in David, and we'll go boom and boom. And that is the duplicate function. And for charts, that's really nice because I get identical copies of what I need. And then, of course, I can edit them after the fact. So just sort of saying here real quick, I created an initial graphic, I duplicated it, and then replicated it first, and then I used the duplicate function. I should make sure those words are separate to then repeat, step and repeat across the way. So you can rewind the video, check that out again in case you missed it. And I'm going to keep proceeding here, and we're going to then change the value amounts here. So let's have this be sort of a progressing chart, right? We always like charts that go up, right? Because we want good monetary values or abundance of things. Maybe crime rate we'd want to go down, right? Those sorts of things. Cool. And again, I'm clicking on the color palette, double clicking on my fill, and then I'm using this slider here to keep my values at a similar saturation and balance or sorry, brightness. And then I can slide this to change the hue. So I'm going to go for, let's go for this nice turquoise color. That's nice. All right. And then we'll do the next one, and we'll go for something more on the green side. All right. And then we'll end here with another warm color. Let's go for like a nice orange. There we go. All right. Cool. All right. So not the most beautiful colors. It's all good. You can change these however you'd like. And I'm going to zoom back out for a second. And one thing that I did do when I got started here was I created a I move these to the center. I created an artboard inside of Illustrator that is in fact, I'll click on the artboard tool so you can see that it is HD. So I chose in the preset here, when I clicked on the artboard button, the HDV 1080, which if you look over here gives me HD, which is 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels. And then I'm going to be able to, because I set this to be the size that's going to be my output size, in After Effects, I can just bring in this Illustrator file, and then it's going to act as a total composition with the layers broken up. So it's going to be really easy to use. I'm really excited about how simple this will be. And then, like I said, I'm just doing charts graphics here. I'm not doing the total infographic, but what I'm going to do is then use After Effects' type tool to create my numbers and the title for the chart, that sort of stuff. All right, but first things first is we need to then start to break up these values into different pieces, right? Different layers is really what I should say. So what we can do is we can do this by hand, or we can very simply just select all of these different pieces. And well, I think it's going to actually happen to the whole project, so we're going to go for it. But what I'll do is in the layers palette right here is this little tiny top right-hand corner options panel. And that's in pretty much every panel that you can pull open in an Adobe product. So if I click and hold that, right, and you may want to go full screen to see this, I'm going to scroll down to where it says release to layers. And you can do two ways, which is sequence or build. What build will do is it will sort of like add a new graphic each layer, almost like a step-by-step animation. But sequence will take every piece and then put it in its own layer. So let's click that one. And then bam, it separates everything into pieces. And because in my project, I've got my logo here and then the title for this video, we're going to just erase those items. We don't need them. All right, or I could just click the trash can here. Yeah, we don't need that guy in the project anymore. Bye-bye. And then the rest of these, again, go full screen so you can see, are the bars, right? They're pretty much representing this gray background part and then the colored front part, okay? So if you click on the layers, right, the two of them, and you click on these little sort of indicate selected artwork, right, you can see that I've got the two pieces right here, layers 5 and layers 6 for that last bar chart. So what I want to do first and foremost is that like everything is in the background layer. It got nested. So I'm going to hold the shift key, click on my first layer, this top one, number 5, hold the shift key, and then click layer 13, which does a big group selection. And then I'm going to drag this up, up, and up all the way so it sits above this top layer that says graph value. And then what this does is this puts everything on its own layer as it is right now. But oops, I did one simple thing here. That was a problem. I need to bring layer 13, and I'm going to then drag it right down here to the background. And I need to start labeling these things so that way I know what they are when I'm in After Effects. So let's start by doing that. So layer 13 I just need to get rid of as an extra. If you just create all of your graphics and then click that button, it sort of works for the entire project. And then you can do, again, release to layers and then click sequence. All right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 backgrounds or background pieces for each bar chart and then foregrounds. So if I knew what these values were, I would, of course, label them verbatim, but we're just kind of making this up as a general chart. So we'll just number them 1 through 5, going from left to right. So we'll call this BG1, okay, for the first one. And then we'll call this graph value. We'll say GV1. All right, so now the two of these guys are, in fact, selected, highlighted, right, but are in 2 different layers. Cool, exactly what we want. All right, we'll go to the next one. All right, we can click on the graphics and see there it is. They're all going to be pretty much in this very nice sort of order of things. So double click on the layer name and we'll say BG2, return, and then GV2 for that guy. All right, and then we'll proceed to do the rest. Yeah, it's all pretty much the same. BG3, EV3, BG4. All right, same thing here for this guy. And then lastly, number 5. Okay. All right. The reason I'm doing this, and I know it's painful for Illustrator users to sort of go through this because everything can exist in one layer. It's really so that when we bring this in into After Effects, everything's going to be separated neatly and nicely and labeled. All right. That's really important. Okay. So again, talking about the overall artboard here, this graph is going to be this size inside of an HD environment. So if our target size, which it is for me, is going to be HD output, this looks great. I'm really happy with how this is going to go. Again, I'm not doing the full rendering of the infographic here. I'm going to use some of After Effects' tools to sort of get this going. You don't even actually need to use Illustrator for a chart like this, but I wanted to show the workflow process. And then we're going to finish it in After Effects. So let's save this file, right? Again, we've broken everything into separate layers. Rewind if you missed that part, and just make sure you have all this stuff correctly labeled. And we're going to go File, Save As, all right? And we're going to create a brand new item right here, okay? And we're going to say, this is Simple Charts 101, okay? And then we're going to call this Simple Chart Graphics. All right, and let's get to that file. There it is. And we're going to save it as an Adobe Illustrator file. All good. All right, CC, totally cool. And then we're going to jump over to After Effects. So here we go. All right, we're now in what is a brand new project in After Effects. It doesn't have any media in it yet, no, not even compositions. So what I mentioned before was that a Photoshop document or an Illustrator document can go into After Effects and act as its own composition. So it'll have its own size and its own graphics and its own layers. So that's really helpful. If I'm working on something very technical like an infographic, I want to be able to bring it over exactly as I see it. So let's do that. So we're going to go in After Effects. I opened up just a brand new project, no media, no composition. And we're going to go File, Import, File, okay, or the nifty Command or Control I. Now, bringing this in, right, I'm going to find my my new folder, which I've been working with here, and it is, let's see, Simple Charts Graphics 101. All right, and there is my Illustrator document. We're going to save all of our After Effects stuff in here as well, so it's good that we have our own project folder ready for this. Now, this is really important. I've clicked on the Illustrator document, and at the bottom, you can see where it says Enable All Accepted Stuff, Illustrator PDF EPS, and it says Import As, and then there's footage chosen. We don't want that because footage flattens our stuff to our graphics to one layer, and we don't want that. We want to be able to move stuff. So where it says footage, we're going to pull this down, and it says Composition, and then we want this other one where it says Composition Retain Layer Sizes. The reason we do this is that if we just do composition, every single graphic that's on the stage will be as big as the artboard, which is HD. And if we have a little tiny thing, that's really hard to control and use the transform tool. So layer sizes puts a nice, tight, neat bounding box surrounding each of them. So we're going to click that guy and then say OK or open. Awesome. So this has now come into the mix. Now, I didn't have a background color or a background graphic inside of my Illustrator doc. So you'll notice the preview is showing that it's black. And the reason is that that was just the last setting that I had for that. So if you click on this composition in our project window, and then you see we've got this little drop down with the layers, everything is all there. It's really fantastic. So yeah, if I double click on this, click, here it is. It opens up my composition. It's set to HD, which is brilliant, exactly what I want. And then I've got everything here, right? I've got a timeline, all my graphics broken up into different pieces. It's wonderful. BG, GV, fantastic, right? So everything is sort of there and ready to rock as we'll need it, okay? So like I said, I built this so that the chart's going to sort of look like this when it's all done, okay? And yeah, you can see that because we did retain layer sizes, as I click on these, each one of these gets a bounding box. Here, let's move this out of the way so you can see. Each one of these gets a bounding box that is snug to the outside of what it is that we have going on. Okay, and that's really helpful. Seriously, if you do it the other way, yeah, it's a little tricky to manage. All right, and in fact, I can't think of a time where I may have needed that. So anyway, rock and roll. Let's proceed. So we're going to use transform controls, and of course this assumes that you have some training with After Effects, but if you follow along, this will give you some nice basics about how After Effects works. So we're going to cover keyframing and then using the transform tools to get this thing moving. And then we're going to use something called an easing method, which will make the graphics kind of like slow down nicely into a final position. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do first and foremost is, if you notice, when I click on each one of these graphics, right, a bar chart naturally should grow from the bottom 0 value all the way up to its current value. But you'll see the crosshair for each one of these is like dead center. So the first thing I'm going to show you guys here is how to change the registration point or the anchor point inside of a graphic. Okay, so we have a wonderful tool for that. Unfortunately, it's not named registration point changer. Okay, it is called the pan behind. You can see where my mouse is on the top left-hand corner. I'll roll over it again to get the tooltip. And it says pan behind, and it's a sort of funky, weird icon that has like a dashed outline with arrows. I'm not sure why they called it that, but you can see in parentheses it does say anchor point. And if you're into keyboard shortcuts to speed up your workflow, you can just hit the Y key and it will then switch over to what that is. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in, and I'm going to put my finger on the spacebar key. And then that's going to allow me to shift my artboard around. This is really handy while you're working with different tools. Because I noticed that when I try to do a dual scroll with my mouse on the Mac, I'm zooming, right? And that can get disorienting, especially because that's not how Photoshop and Illustrator works. Anyhow, I've got the pan behind tool, right, to set the anchor point. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the anchor point in this first graphic, and then I'm just going to simply drag it down to the very bottom, right there, which is beautiful. That's totally exactly what I want. Oops, sorry. And then space bar to drag and move over. Okay, I'll click on this guy now, and I'll do the same thing, drag it down so that it just sort of covers right there. On to the next. Right, drag it down so it sits right there. And again, this is going to make sure that the bar chart grows from that location, right? Because we're going to change the scale of it to grow to its current value, but we want to make sure that it doesn't just sort of expand from the center. It expands from the bottom part and looks like a legitimate bar chart. Okay, so that's really important that we just did all that. So all of them now have been readjusted to their new registration point, and you can confirm by seeing it on the bottom here, right, with the pan behind tool. And that was our little friend up here. All right, so that's a biggie because it really would sort of cause us problems later. So now we're gonna, let's get this out of here. So now we're gonna go to the black arrow and zoom out and begin the process of animating these guys. So I'm going to pull my timeline up so you guys can see better what's going on here. So I'm going to go to where it says graph value 1, the first one. And I'm going to click this little arrow that's pointing to the right so that it drops down my special timeline transform controls in After Effects. Okay, so this is different than any other software that we're using. Right, all this stuff is in timeline, and the reason is you want to be able to set keyframes and then set specific values and see how that's going to sort of unfold. Okay, so we're going to go to where it says scale, and then having our timeline at the 0 mark, we're going to click this stopwatch. Now, the stopwatch is very important. The moment that you turn on the stopwatch, it becomes active, right? You don't have to use it every time you want to set a keyframe. It's almost like hitting the record button on a tape deck, or if you know what those are, or a VHS, where we used to record things from like TV and whatnot. So just know that you click it. Oops, sorry, I've clicked position. I don't need that, but scale. And when I click scale, it now allows me to plot keyframes, and it's plotted one already. Okay. Now this is great, right? We want this to be here in our project because we ahead of time set the value to look like it's going to look at the end, and then in After Effects it only needs us to set the value to 0. So okay, one thing I need to change here real fast is I'm going to go and I'll show you all how to do this. My project's only set, unfortunately, to 3 seconds. It's only because I've been working making animated GIFs, which are that short. So I'm going to go up to where it says composition settings, and then I'm going to change my project from being 3 seconds to 15 seconds. Okay. Now the seconds are the second batch of numbers from the right-hand side. okay? And it goes hours, minutes, seconds, frames. All right, so this is in the composition settings, which I found under composition at the top. So I will say okay, and now my project is a lot longer, okay? And you can see my media is a little bit short, but I can change all that when the time comes. Actually, the time has come now, so we're gonna go ahead and change this. This isn't something that everybody will encounter. It's just that my settings from a previous use of After Effects had it going that way, and I should have changed it earlier, but. So what I did here is I held down, first I clicked on BG1, held down the shift key, and then I clicked on GV5, which then makes a group selection, meaning everything in between it will be selected. And then just like any video editing software, I can go to the end part of my clip, which is in here, and I can drag it out towards the 30 or 15-second mark in my case. And I'm also using the zoom timeline feature, which looks like a little mountain on the bottom, to zoom out so I can see my entire timeline, and that looks great to me. So I'll go back now to GV1, okay, to where I had that scale setting on, and now I needed a little more time to animate, okay, because each of these is going to take about 2 seconds, and we don't want them to all occur at once. They're going to sort of occur in a staggered way. So the first animation for the red chart, we're going to then set a second keyframe, and what we'll do is we can either click this little diamond, right? You can see on my left-hand corner here where I could click that and just add a keyframe, or I can take it off as well, or I could just change the value. So it's important for us, if you notice, if I start to click and drag this, I can change the way that my chart looks. Notice it's growing from the bottom because of our anchor point change, but it's growing proportionately, and we don't want that. I'm going to do Command or Control Z to back up. You'll notice there's this tiny little chain here that says Constrain Proportions, and that's automatically set. So we're going to click to turn it off, and then we get our width and height values. So you can see here this first one is width. Of course, that's not what we want. We want the height, which is the second value. So I'm going to click on that number, and I can drag left to right to change it. Click and drag, and you'll see it'll scale. Or I could just simply type in, after tapping on it to highlight it, 0, and it takes it down to the 0 point. And yeah, so like what happens now, unfortunately, is our value is growing and then shrinking, okay? So I need to change that. So a nice little sort of simple thing that I can do is I can click on this gold keyframe here and then hold Shift and then click on the other keyframe, all right? And then I'm going to put my finger on the Control key to get my contextual menu. And then what this does is this opens up some little like keyframe sort of helpers and add-ons. In fact, we're going to go here when it's time to do easing, but the first thing we want to use, and I'm sorry, this is at the very bottom of the screen, time reverse keyframes. The reason is, and we're going to do it correctly after the fact, is I wanted 100% to be at 2 seconds and then start at 0. And I'll show you how to do it properly the second time. But if you find that you've set keyframes, you can go and fix it by doing that. Cool. Okay. So now I'm going to go do the second value. So I'll close this up. I'll now go to where it says GV2, or I can click in my main timeline viewer if I prefer to see it visually. Drop down, go to Transform, click on Scale. Okay, set that first keyframe. But what I want to do this time is I want this keyframe to end where the previous animation, or begin where the previous animation ended. So I can pop down my GV1 again, and I can scrub my playhead. You can see here I'm dragging it left to right, and that's called scrubbing. And then you can see at 2 seconds that the last animation ended, and that's where I want my next value to begin. Okay, so it'll grow and end, grow and end, grow and end with each of these. Okay, and we'll see how it looks, and we'll tweak accordingly. All right, so each one of these is going to be 2 seconds long. So I've got my finger on the Shift key, right, which allows me to sort of like get more precise values in the timeline, or I could come over to this big timeline scrubber. I can pull it open like any value, and I can just do a flat 4 seconds by typing it in and hitting return. And I know that the playhead will precisely go to that point. Cool. Now I'll set another keyframe. Okay, and this time I'm going to use the add or remove keyframe at current time where I just click and it adds a little gold diamond there, indicating to that I've put a keyframe down. And then I'm going to scrub back and use my shift key, which now lets me do something called snapping, and it snaps me to this previous keyframe. And I know that I'm on it for sure because it glows gold. All right. Also, this is just a little bit of a backup technique. You can use these arrows, which allow you to navigate left to right from keyframe to keyframe. Now, the reason you want to do this is that keyframes are really small and they last for just one frame. So I might not be able to see right now that for some reason I've added an extra keyframe. It's sort of a pitfall of After Effects, is that like if you don't notice, you can actually plot like 4 or 5 keyframes all next to each other, and it'll make your animation kind of tweak out, and you're going to wonder why. So using the keyframe navigator is really helpful. All right, so going back now, we're going to set the height value to 0, right? So that way now, we have to make sure we turn off the chain, right, for constraining proportions. If the chain is gone, it's off. And then we'll hit 0. Cool. There it goes. All right. Now I'm going to show you a super efficient method. It's lazy. It's going to work really well for you and save you some time. So check this out. So I'm going to click on this keyframe and this keyframe, and I'm going to do Command or Control C to copy them. Boom. And then I'm going to go up to this next GV value. Going to drop it down, drop down transform. And I'm going to now move my playhead to be with the ending of GV2, right? Graph value 2. I'm going to turn on scale, and then I'm going to undo the chain, okay? And I'm going to paste in the values now. So I can paste keyframes right into this scale position if I want to. In fact, let's get super, super lazy. Let's go to the next one. Go to graph value 4, transform. I don't even have to push the stopwatch. I can just paste, and it goes right in. It turns the stopwatch on for me and just plots the values right into the location. So Adobe, thank you for letting us be able to do that, is that you can just copy and paste keyframes, and then you can see it works out that I don't have to measure time anymore, right? I just got to put my playhead in the right location, okay? Click on scale, boom, okay? And then now, yep, it automatically takes care of it for us. In fact, I didn't even have to turn off the chain for that one. I think I just will, just for safety, just in case something goes haywire. But now, right, let's sort of stand back here for a second, right? Go back to the beginning of the movie, right? Click off everything so it doesn't show bounding boxes. And then I've got my preview window here, or I can handy dandy hit space, and you're going to see, there it goes. And it's not in real time. You can see my FPS, frames per second, is 12 at a 22nd. But there they go. You can see the value starting to fill up, right? Boom. Again, this is slow. It's about half time. So this isn't going to be how it goes. It'll be a lot quicker. But once you can see these green frames filling up, that means that those frames are rendered, okay? After Effects isn't the greatest when it comes to real-time playback, but yeah, here we go. Now we'll see it in real time. Oh, actually, sorry, it's not playing in real time, even though it's rendered. I'll show you here how we can play it real time, right? This is our preview panel, okay? I'll break it out so you can see what it looks like. Let me move it to the side just so I have it free and floating. Okay, all right, bring it into the mix. All right, here we go. So there is the RAM preview or preview palette. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this far right-hand button, and yeah, I don't see if there's any options. I'll just go ahead and click it. And you can see now it's going to do a RAM preview. Yeah, and it's going to first do it not at real time. Then after this, it should give us the real-time playback. Oop, I touched it. So my bad. We got to do it again. All right, here we go. Yep, I'm recording this at my university, and you guys can hear my lovely bells from the clock tower in the background. It's quite charming. So we can do that while we watch this go. It'll go to the full 15 seconds. Yeah, I'm not getting full RAM preview playback, but it's all good. I'm getting a good sense of how this goes, so it's really cool. You don't ever really truly know how your video is until you output it, right? Until you render it, which I'll show you guys at the very end. All right, so this is looking good so far, and I did promise now that we'd talk about how to do easing. So that's going to require us to get back into the keyframe world here. So I'll show you what it looks like and then how we can sort of batch apply it across the project. So easing, I want it to ease out, meaning that like we're going to target the second keyframe, the ending keyframe, and then we're going to apply an easing method called easy ease. Okay. So what we're going to do is on that second keyframe of GV1, I'm going to, here, I'll move this up so we can see it. All right, just closing these guys. This can get cumbersome a little bit sometimes, but it's all good. So I'm going to target that, control click to get the contextual menu. And then I'm going to go down to where it says keyframe assistant. And then I'm going to click this guy, which says easy ease. All right, and it's general easing. Okay, you can do in or out. And that means if you want something to like slow down and then abruptly begin, but this sort of applies easing around the entire keyframe. All right, there are very technical ways to do easing. This video isn't going to show you that. This is going to just show you the easy methods that you can get this done. And let's see what this now looks like. Okay, easy ease is something that I tell my students often is like when I'm watching someone's demo reel, it's the difference between really sort of someone showing me that they pay close attention to detail versus not, right? Or somebody who has more experience than another motion graphics designer. All right, so here we go. Let's see what that looks like. Of course, we'll get a quick preview, not in real time, but you're going to notice now that that thing's going to slow down and look real nice. Okay, and now I'll show you what it looks like. So there it goes, and then you'll see it slows down. Beautiful. And now watch the purple, and you'll see the purple is going to stop on a dime. Bam, right? Very computerized, very technical, very mechanical looking, wooden, robotic. Not necessarily what you want in a sort of slick motion graphics package for infographics. Okay, so we can now very nicely, we're going to pop down all the GVs. So there's GV2, GV3, GV4, and GV5. And I need to see my whole timeline to pull this off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click that last keyframe, and then I'm going to hold the command, or I guess it would probably be Alt key on Windows. And then that's going to allow me to select, oh, nope, I don't want to do that. Let's see, what's going to do this for me? Is it going to be, oh, it's Shift. Okay, so you hold down Shift key, Shift again, all the final keyframes of all the GVs, right, of all the graph values. So number 5, 4, 3, and 2, and I've done 1 already. You could just do them all in one go, but I wanted to show you the individual one first. And then I can click any one of them, right, and do Control click to get the contextual menu, go back down to Keyframe Assistant, and then Easy Ease. And you'll see it applies it to all of them, right? So all of these now have Easy Ease applied to them. Now, the one thing to note is that the icon changes from being a diamond into an hourglass. And the hourglass should tell you, and this is good if you're taking notes, that that has an easing method applied to it. And that's great. And the ones that are just straight diamonds don't. They're going to just sort of end as they end. All right, let's see what this looks like. Cool. Cool. All right, you can see it's got the nice slowdown applied to it. Again, not even real time. This is about half time. Oh, and I've ruined it. If you touch anything else during the sort of preview, it pauses. Nice, cool. Cool. All right, so these are looking really nice. I'm happy with this. This is fantastic. These are doing exactly what we want them to do, right? We have the sort of grayish background to show what the full value of the chart looks like. We have a bright color on top. That's going to sort of be a progress bar chart-like thing. Now, when it comes to graph theory, this type of chart wouldn't be a traditional bar or column graph. What it actually might work well as, I mean, you can use it as such, but because we're showing the sort of background as like the max value, what it lets us do is not have to put like a metric, right, or a Cartesian grid or a measurement system built into the chart. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to put the numbers like directly on top of this part, and we're going to actually make them animate as it moves, which is kind of a fun thing. But this can also work for percentages. So if you get a range of percentages that don't need a pie graph, right? They're not parts of a whole, but they still are percentages. this helps you sort of indicate to people that this is 100% and that this is reaching roughly 50 and 60, that sort of thing going on from there. It's just a visual indicator to help with that, okay? But so far, this is what we got, okay? All right, so next, we're going to, let's close all these up. We're going to now start adding some text and type to this, so that way we can generate our values, but also like put some type into this project so we know really what the heck is going on. So I'm going to pull the type tool down and move preview out of the way here. All right, and we've got a font of Myriad Pro, super fantastic. We'll go bold on it, and then we'll set the color to white. Okay, and then there's we'll turn off the stroke, and then we got a fill. So it's just like Illustrator here. All right, we'll type in and we'll say, let's see, alcohol, spell it correctly, alcohol consumption by type. Okay, so what this is going to do is sort of indicate to us that we have 5 different alcohol types and that this is the amount that people consume it by, right? So like when you have a chart, you have to sort of tell us like what it is, and then almost like a filter method. So by type is going to tell us, oh, well, there's different types of alcohol going on here. And that's going to help us sort of understand what that is. Okay. Now, yeah, this is a strange orientation. So I'm going to use my black arrow to draw a box around this first value. And I'm just going to sort of separate these in a much better way. So that way, yeah, we can have type under them, and yeah, it's taking better advantage of the space. Again, I probably should have done a better layout first in Illustrator, but this is just to sort of give you the skills and understand the basic workflow. All right, let's get back to typing here. So my font is huge. We're going to get this down to about 50, and then, yeah, we'll use bold as well here. Okay, and then this first one, alcohol type by consumption, let's say, all right, and let's also, I'm sure this is killing the editors and most of you here. Let's spell consumption correctly. Bam. Okay, cool. Now we're back in business here. All right, rock and roll. All right, so we have an empty text piece there. I'm just going to delete it because I hate trying to click on those. And then we'll put in here, let's say liquor. Okay. All right, again, these are not real values. And then I'm going to hold Alt or Option and then just Command click, right? And then, oh, no, is that not going to work? Let's see. All right, it's not going to work here. So we're going to have to go up to Layer, or sorry, Duplicate, and then, or Edit and Duplicate. And that's going to allow us to create a second layer that just has the type kind of preset. All right, and then we'll call this wine. All right. All right, Command D duplicates it. You'll notice it's renaming it down here in the timeline based on what it says. Okay. Let's make this, I don't want, oh yeah, let's do beer. I'm running out of alcohol types here. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, Command D. We'll bring this over. Let's see, what else is there? I mean, is moonshine? Let's make moonshine. It's probably a liquor, but yeah, we'll go with it from here. Okay. All right, and then let's pretend in a magical world. Cider. Cool. All right, fantastic. So these are made up things. You probably disagree totally with what they are, but again, it's just to teach you how this goes down. Okay, and sorry, just for the sake of things here. Sorry, I'm going to lead this and do it as one line. Yeah, there is a paragraph tool in Illustrator or in After Effects here. Yep, it's set to center. I'm real happy with that. That's cool. All right, so now looking at this, right, we've got context to what's going on. All right, now we don't need a legend or a key because we've labeled every chart. Okay, we don't need a metric system on the left-hand side to sort of tell us where the value is on a chart because we're going to put the numbers directly on it. All right, so before we do anything else, I have to just do a very simple but very logical thing, save. I'm going to do Command S, all right, and then this is going to go into my project folder that I've been working on, and here it's Simple Charts 101. and simple charts 101, and it's going to sit there with our Illustrator file. Now, it's important that we do this because After Effects is just a project-based software. It's not something that like holds everything or embeds media inside of it. It just holds it and keeps it almost in an XML format, like video software with instructions. So we have to have that Illustrator file right next to it in a project folder. Otherwise, we're going to have problems, right? We're going to lose the graphics. It's going to show these sort of color bars, and life's going to be just miserable. Okay. And fixing that, I will do in another video, but if it ever goes haywire. But right now, we want to just use the good practice of keeping our stuff in one folder. All right, so save. Super cool. Loving this so far. We got all of our labels. Everything's groovy. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to choose, all right, a text object. And we're going to set, right now we can just sort of say like, well, yeah, we're going to do 50%. Okay. All right. And what we're going to try and do here is we're going to get this this 50% number to sort of ride up with the liquor, okay, amount. So we're going to do that for each one. It's kind of a fun little thing. And it just, you know, gives a little bit of extra interest to what it is that you have going on. So of course, what I'm going to do to make my life easy is I'm going to put the value, I'm rearranging it here in the timeline, in the stacking order, so that it goes above my GV1, okay? And I'm doing this so that I can see these two timelines next to each other, right? This will affect stacking, right, like it will in Illustrator or Photoshop, so I can put graphics behind by rearranging it that way, but I don't want to here. I just want to have it next to GV1, and it's going to work out great. So the reason I want it next to GV1 is so that I can see like where it is in location. And then I'm going to go here to transform, and I'm going to click on position, and I'm going to set this position here at the 2-second mark, right, with my playhead where it is currently. And then I'm going to drag this back, right, to 0, set another keyframe, and then I'm going to, you can see it's starting to create a motion path, and I'm going to set it down here at the bottom, okay? All right, I can use my arrow keys to help make that position occur. And then it's going to ride with it, right? And you can see it's not quite perfect. The speed of it's a little bit different. So I'm going to try and sync that up as best I can. All right, you can see it's running a little bit ahead. Okay, so what we need to do to get this to lock up tight is like there's no real way to sort of like get that to be perfect, right? Those values per se. So we're going to just play with a little bit of duration. All right, and this requires just a little bit of tweaking to get that going. And I think probably because of the easing. So let's turn the easing on as well. All right, easy ease. All right, that might actually help it better. Yeah, okay, let's see it now. Yeah, perfect. Okay, that was the reason. It wasn't syncing because I had the easy ease on, but now because the position and the scale are sort of rocking in tandem here. Let's see it without the, you can see it sort of now flows in a nice way. Yeah, all right, so we're gonna have to just replicate that as best as possible. And then we can do that for all the others. All right, so one thing though that's important, jumping back, is that like I don't want 50% to sort of show up immediately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on first opacity, and there's a few ways to do this, but we're going to do it with a keyframe, and we're going to make this look nice and smooth. So about halfway, 1 second, I'm going to click another keyframe, right, by adding it here with opacity. And this is going to make a nice like 0 to 100% fade of opacity. And it will just look like it's like rising and fading in at the same time. Really nice. All right. So going back now, we're going to set the opacity in that initial keyframe to 0. It goes gone now. All right. So now what we have is super cool. And you can play with that as you wish. You can have it ride the whole time and fade in as it needs. Here I have the value just sort of showing up midway, which is okay for me. And easing applies here as well. You can totally do that. So you can click Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. It all looks nice, right? Yeah, super rad. Cool. Okay. So unfortunately, we couldn't copy and paste these verbatim like we've been doing with the other values because, well, they go to different heights, okay? But we can still do it and then only have to make a minor tweak. So we're totally going to do this, okay? So watch this. We're going to take these keyframes. I'm going to drag a box around them so it selects them all. And we're going to do Command or Control-C to copy, okay? And then I'm going to bring down, well, I need to make another one of these. So, oh, actually, wow. Here, let's just do this. This is going to be fantastic. I've selected it after animating it, and then I'm going to do Command D, all right, which will make me a second 50% value, which, oh, no, I have to take this back. We can't do it. We can't do it. No. All right. The reason is that, watch, if I move it over, it bends. It creates another motion path. So, all right. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to have to sort of tweak it one piece at a time. So sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. If you know of a better way, throw it in the comments. I'm always up to learn and make these things nicer. So, all right. So let's type it. We're going to have to sort of crawl a little bit here, but it's not the end of the world. So we got a value now of 65, and I'm going to stack it on top of GV2. And then let's get back to the 2-second mark. Okay, inside of GV2. Right, there it is. I've snapped to that keyframe. Ooh, come on with me now. All right, so I'm going to put, well, let's put this at the max value. All right, that's where we want to go first. So I'll put it in place before I set any keyframe, right? Would have been great if I could have just duplicated this, but unfortunately it doesn't translate that easily. All right, so in 65%, under transform, we're going to set position. Okay, there we've done it. That's its ending value. And then I'm going to hold shift and drag the playhead back to the 2-second mark, which was where the previous animation ended. Right? And we'll set the position there. But now we'll drag it down to its bottom location. Perfect. Okay. What we can bring over, we can copy and paste the opacity from 50, but we can just do it. It's really okay. It's good practice. So we'll set it there, and then I've been doing it in the middle, set the second value, use the keyframe navigator to jump back, and then we'll set this guy to 0. And then before we end it, we got to make sure, of course, that our ending keyframe for position has Easy Ease on it. Cool. All right, now if you're wondering, well, why couldn't we have just copy and pasted it? Well, we got to go up to a higher point in the position. And here's the big end, is that position comes in 2 values. So if I just drag this over, it's going to want to go up and down over here or over here versus over here. So unfortunately, it's not the greatest efficient solution, but it's going to work. All right, cool. So I'm going to keep rolling on here. I'm just repeating this over and over again. So I'll type in now, let's see, what value does this roughly go to? Let's say that's 70, or let's do 68% for fun. Okay, and then 68% goes above GV3. All right, and I'm basing all stuff off of previous animations. Okay, so it's nice and easy. All right, pull down GV3. All right, and pull down my transform here. Fantastic. All right, so we're going to set opacity, and then we're going to set position. Oh, hold on. Before we do position, I turned off the dropper there. We're going to move this guy over to here, so it's on top of the location, right? And did I sync that up nicely? I sure did. Okay, cool. So I put all those values there. That looks good. Now we can set position. Cool. And we're going to proceed in time so that we can see where the animation ends. So there's GV3 right here. I'm holding shift so it moves over. And then we'll set the end position. And then I think here, midway point, I've been doing opacities. Cool. All right. So last thing, we'll set with keyframes, we'll give this keyframe assistant easy ease, but you're saying, but Mike, you haven't done the initial value, and you're right. Well, actually, sorry, I did. There it goes to easy ease to match. But no, I have to do it for the text. That's what I didn't do. All right, we'll drag this guy down, put it at the base of this location. All right, and then perfect. All right, and then we'll set the initial opacity to 0. So now it just sort of fades in. There it goes. Gorgeous. So gorgeous. Wonderful. All right, cool. We're on a roll. Let's get the next one in. Type. Let's see how this guy goes. GV4. Let's see. That looks like a. Oof. Yeah, actually, I'm going to change this to be like 75%. It's looking more like 75. I know it. Yeah, cool. All right, I like that better. So that I can make this one look 80. That's going to be the what that does. Okay, and I'll type in 80%. Okay, drag it in place to its final value. And just for now, I'm going to duplicate it and then bring it over here, another value. So that way I have, because what does this guy go to? This guy goes to almost, yeah, it's like 98%. So I'm just putting the text in early. That way I have it and I don't have to recreate it all the time. All right, cool. So we're on this one here, 80%, which is going to go above GV4. All right, I'll pop it down, and I just need to sync up these animations. And that'll be happiness. So transform, opacity, position. Okay, midway point. All right, I'm starting to get a routine here. I'm feeling good, like I know what I got to do. Okay, endpoint, easy ease. Okay, and then now we'll set this guy at the bottom. And then we'll set opacity to 0. That's going to fade in really nice. Okay, and then on to the last one. Okay, 98% goes above GV5. All right, we'll pop it down, go to its value space, like where the keyframes are. In other words, I'm dragging this slider here, so that way I can move ahead in the timeline. All right, transform gets dropped down. Position, opacity. Oop, I can't see the endpoint. Perfect. Go midway for our second opacity keyframe, and then the last one to set position. And then we'll do easy ease. Righteous. Okay, and then back to here. All right, I'm just dragging now, setting this guy to be at the very bottom. And then we'll set opacity to Z, 0. Perfect. Okay. Loving this. All right. Save, of course, very important, save. Okay, so let's see what this looks like now. All right, I click outside of the viewer window, go back to the beginning. Okay, RAM preview. All right, we're gonna watch it. Proceed. Ooh, that's nice. Cool. So aesthetically, I might make these charts a little wider just to fit the type better. And I think that would kind of make this really work out nicely. This is a little bit slower than real time, but it's looking good, really smooth, great color. So you can imagine if I had a voiceover here, I could say, you know, according to blah, 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 data source, the alcohol consumption by type, and of course we have to say in the US or in the world and stuff. So that way our data is connected, right? This just sort of now lets us show that data, right? Create an animated version of it, but then also have it look nice and slick. Okay, that's the whole point, is that like, this is a boring chart, and if it was on its own just sitting there, I hope my colors are good, I hope my type is good, but this is going to really take it to the next level. Okay, so cool, right? Obviously rewind for steps, post questions if you have them in the comments. Let's output this as now a movie. Okay, so if we remember, go to composition settings, this is how our movie is going to act. It's going to be HD when it's finally output. Our frame rate is standard digital frame rate, and then our duration, the length of it, is 15 seconds, okay? Now, we don't exactly have 15 seconds worth of content in here, or animation, I should say, so let's see, 98% ends roughly at 10 seconds. So we can actually trim our movie in the output window. So let's go through those steps. We're gonna go to where it says composition, And we're going to say then add to render queue. And this is going to use After Effects' built-in render queue. You could also use Adobe Media Encoder if you have multiple outputs, but I'm a big fan of the render queue. Here it is. Okay. There's 3 things that you have to click on, and they're like little hyperlinks. So first one here, the render settings. We click best settings. This is all great. We're going to keep this set as standard, and it's really great. And then last one here, or second one here, lossless. This is going to tell us that we can output this as a QuickTime movie. These are all your media encoders that you can use. I use QuickTime just sort of ready to rock as I'm, outputting for I should say YouTube and things like that. But then you can also, if you wish, change this to be MPEG-4 video, DVC Pro, full high res, H.264, which is YouTube friendly as well. These are all great, but I'm going for animation because YouTube is going to downgrade my stuff once I put it there. So animation is like a high res version. And then of course we don't have any audio on here, so it won't be added in the project. So all good. So we'll say okay, right? And then okay again. And then we're going to go to where it says, or actually one last thing, going back to QuickTime. Let's see, we did the format options. Let's see, was it under best settings? Yeah, okay, here it is. So best settings, where it says time sampling, you can say customization. You can come in here and you can set the endpoint, the duration. So you can set this to be 11, right, which gives us 1 second after the fact that we had just 10 seconds worth of animation. We'll say okay. And that allows us to change it from the composition settings. All right, now we're good. Then we're going to go to output 2, and you can see it says simple chart graphics, which is the name of our project, right, which is our composition. And then we're going to go to our previously made piece here, simple charts 101, and we're going to save it to this location. Right, we chose basically its rendering destination, and then we're going to click render. And then this little guy is going to count the frames. You can actually watch it unfold in the space, not in real time, of course, but there it goes. This is what our movie is ultimately going to look like in the end. And then we can open it in QuickTime Player or upload it to YouTube or Facebook or whatever. All right, that's the handy dandy After Effects chime letting you know that it's done. Okay, we can close the render queue, and we can then go to our Finder window and then go to desktop here where I have Simple Charts 101. Okay, and then there we've got, there it all is right now. There's the Simple Charts AI After Effects file, and then the QuickTime movie, which is 59 megs. We can pop it open. Well, we gotta, because it's an MOV classic, we have to convert it, and it's going HD, which is a little bit bigger than my screen. We'll hit play. There it is. Look how nice and crisp it looks. Right, it's really great. Right, using vector graphics, there's a lot of advantages. I didn't show you how to sort of use that continuous rasterization, which is what you set for vector graphics, because we didn't do any zooming, right? We just moved things around in a kind of a fun way. All right, guys. So this has been creating simple charts with first with Illustrator, packaging it up for After Effects, and then ultimately animating it inside of After Effects. I hope that y'all enjoyed this, and more of these to come. So yeah, hit me up in the comments, right? Subscribe, all that good stuff. And then I will see you guys soon.